change of plans. Couldn't seem to get the master pins out, so I'm going to go after the rollers, the top roller and the 3 bottom rollers right now. So I've loosened the track. I'm going to loosen it a little bit more, and yeah, see what we can do with the rollers. So let's get the rollers done, and then we'll see what we can do about the master pins. Loosening up the front idler. So then I got to pull this back as far as I can, but I'm going to use a ratchet strap to do that. Nice and loose. May even be able to just pop the track off and bicycle it back on. Do what I need to do that way. This track is super heavy. This is why we're replacing this. It's not supposed to do that. So I had to get a little destructive and cut the heads off the bolts. So I got that done. This will pop off, and then I'll have to deal with the studs that are stuck in there. I'll probably let them soak with PV Blaster for a while, and then I'll try to get some vice grips on there and see if I can crank them out. If not, then I'll have to drill and tap again. this is what we got left. A couple of studs sticking up. And so far they are not budging with vice grips, so I've hit them with PB Blaster and just letting them soak. But as I've been digging around in here, I've seen what I think is actually causing the problem. So the issue is that the track comes off, and it comes off typically on the front. It doesn't do it very often, but it does it, which is part of the reason it's called hot potato. So I checked the bearings on this front idler, and actually they're fine. So I brought the idler from Skinny, but I'm not going to need to put that on because this one's fine. But here's the problem, or here's what I think is the problem. This whole channel that the idler rides on, and the bottom rollers, I mean the top roller for that matter, everything except the rear roller attaches to the frame on this plate, and it's secured a couple different spots, but this is where part of it is secured. And if you look, this is just beat up big time. So it looks like this whole thing is doing this, and well, that's, I mean, that would be plenty to cause the front track to want, or the front of the track to want to come off. So yeah, as I look at, you know, you can see this side and the back side are not looking too hot at all. And this, I mean, that is just completely worn out, and I can see this is loose. So yeah, there's a number of things going on here, and we'll have to replace these bolts because they look like they're just trashed. And then I'm going to need to do some work on those bolts, see if I can get this good and secure. So yeah, and of course, you know, that's going to be lovely to deal with, trying to get that foolishness off. It's so beat. I never noticed it before. So, and then of course now I gotta deal with these too. Yeah, so this is going to be a few more days than I thought it was. Yeah, so I'm going to try and see if I can weld a nut on the top of these, and then use that to take another attempt at cranking them off. No idea if this will work, but I'd like to try it. 3/4. I'm going to do it while it's hot. We'll see what happens. Yes. Yes. Score. I guess I won't be tapping threads after all today. Well, on this one anyway. That's coming out. Now I wonder about this one. Yep. All right. Gotta go get a new bolt. A lot of these on this case are fine thread. Most of the undercarriage bolts are fine thread. Pretty much all the bolts I can see right now, like all these, this, these are very likely fine thread as well. You know what? I may actually already have the bolts for this. I keep a little stash of these fine thread bolts for this rig because I'm always replacing them on this. That's the thing about these old cases is, well, this one anyway, leaks everything and every bolt is trying to come loose on this thing. Except the ones that aren't. Yes, these are hot. There's one bolt, yep. Fine thread. So, the top roller from Skinny fits right on here. It's nice having a parts machine with interchangeable bits. The bearing on this one's not perfect. You can see it still wobbles, but it's not as bad as the other one, so it's a little bit of an upgrade. I'll have the other one rebuilt. I'll put new bearings in it, put it back together, and I'll probably put that one on Skinny and leave this one on this. See how it goes. That's my plan anyway. As I take the bottom rollers, as I take these bottom rollers off, I'll put new bearings in them, and then I'll put them on Skinny. So Skinny gets the good stuff, and Hot Potato handles the hand-me-downs, and that way I've got two machines that are, you know, kind of in workable rolling condition. So after some more digging, I discovered that somebody replaced this bolt and this bolt with bolts that were much too small a diameter. And instead of just screwing them into the threads that are in the C-channel rail, they put they put nuts underneath them. So I was trying to get this one off and it snapped. So that's annoying. And unfortunately, the nut is sort of stuck in there. Can't really get at it. So I'm going to end up having to do some drilling on that one. And then this one, it appears that when they put this in, they put metric stuff in there. So nothing that I have is fitting on that nut. It's not 15/16, it's not 1 inch, it's not 7/8. It's something between 15/16 and 7/8. So yeah, so I'm gonna have to take the bottom roller off and then take the grinder out, knock them off. Now, good news on these ones, I was able to get them to move and I was able to tighten them up. So, and they took a lot of torque. I put tons of torque on them and they took it. They just got tighter. So that was good. So I feel like if I can get those back bolts out of the way, then I can go get proper bolts to either thread into the rail, or I'll do the same nut and bolt technique, but I'll use something bigger. so that there's not so much slop. But you can see, I mean, that's a pretty small bolt for that hole. No wonder it was rattling around in there and putting all that stress on these two outer bolts. So if we can get this fixed, this may actually be the thing that was making the track somewhat rickety. Well, I'm that guy. Grab whatever paint you have and paint the thing that you just replaced. So yeah, so here's the top roller all installed. I got new bolts that fit correctly, and so that is done. And now I'm going to turn my attention to this.
Taking this rear roller off so I can get at that rear bolt up there. Try to grind it off. Double the pleasure, huh?
Just get these front ones loose, but I don't want to take them all the way out. These will be the last ones I take out because that thing weighs about 40 pounds and it wants to fall on you, so I don't want my hand underneath it when I'm getting the last screw out, the last bolt out. Yep. So I need to slip underneath this thing. All right. That is out. This was replaced. I replaced this a couple years ago. It's sealed, so it doesn't need any greasing or anything like that. So nice unit. Cost me, I don't know, I think I got a good deal on it. I think it was like $200 delivered, which is a pretty good price for these things. All right, that gets me some access. Now the question is, can I get a grinder in there to get that nut off the back of that bolt? We shall see. what I did on this back one is I tapped the hole so I could get a 3/4 bolt in. I didn't expect those threads to hold, and they didn't. And I put a nut on the bottom to really give it good clamping force. And then I tacked that nut in place so that I effectively have threads now, and I don't have to get a wrench in there and all that stuff. On the front, because I'm not going to spend any more time frigging around with it, so I just decided to weld. I just did a strip of weld across the front of that bracket. You know, not the best thing, not my ideal thing, but I decided that it worked for this. I can still get all this apart if I need to. So, you know, even if I had to cut that weld. But for now, I think this gets me good. This is nice and solid now. All these bolts are torqued, and that front is welded. So this is not going to jiggle around on me anymore. So that's a good thing. I'm really glad about that. So this is where we're at. So we got a new 3/4 bolt in there. Fills up the hole nicely. It's nice and tight with that nut on the back. And on the front, I just put an ugly weld. But you can see, I tried to get that bolt out, and it was just not doing it. And then I broke a drill bit in there. So that's like the worst case scenario. But I'm satisfied that this is gonna be fine. So we're taking the rollers off on the bottom. I got the bolts off of the inside. Now I need to take the bolts off the outside and drop the rollers. See that? See how much movement there is in there? Backside all opened up. Looks like the seal fell off. Yeah, that's the seal. So I'm going to rebuild these, put new bearings in them, and these will be good to go. These are worth, well, a brand new one is about $200 right now. We got all the bottom rollers off. We'll go grab the rollers from Skinny, start putting them on. This is a heavy duty roller. The front and the back rollers take the most beating. So if you're going to get heavy duty rollers, and pretty much if you go buy brand new, that's what you're going to get. So it's good to have heavy duty ones on the front and rear. The middle ones take the least beating, and so you can just rebuild those ones or get good used ones and run them in the middle. All right, so we got our other rollers. You can see these are a lot tighter. There's no movement in there. So one of the things we're going to make sure is that we put our Zerk fittings, our grease fittings, out on all these. By the way, these rollers, this is a roller that fits a Case 350, so it crosses with the 310, but this is like light years heavier duty than those ones. It probably weighs a good at least 5 pounds more. a lot more steel in it. All right, I got all the rollers back on. Everything is torqued on the inside. Now I got to just torque the outside bolts. Everything's put back together. Now it's time to tighten the track up. So I'm going to just save myself a little time by pulling this thing back out. There, you ready to roll? Ooh, that was about a day longer than I planned, but I'm glad to have it done. Well, I have some good news and I have some bad news. Let me start with the good news. The track is on. And now the bad news. It almost fell off. And I'm like, what the heck is happening? But here, I have finally figured out what's going on. You see that? See how loose that is? I did not loosen that. That just happened while I was operating. That's not good. So this nut is, both these nuts are stripped, and or the threads are stripped. All right, so this slips down over this like that. So this, you can kind of see how this fits. Part of it over the nut. Like that. So the question is, how do you keep it on there? So this collar slips on here and then spins around like that. And then spins up here. And it cannot fall off as long as it can't slip back. So that's what the zip tie is for. Let's see if you can. Zip tie takes up this space, and now this cannot come back, so it can't spin off and it can't get off. Once I start driving, once I start operating the vehicle, this is all going to compress back because the track wants to loosen up, and it'll pinch all of this in place and the track will stay tight. Not as tight as it is right this second, but within a 1/4 of an inch. Not enough to let the track come off. And that is how we fix it.